Our next speaker, ladies and gentlemen, Trish LeSage. She has a BBA degree in marketing, a BA degree in Spanish, and international trade. She worked in the corporate world for years in imports and exports in the automotive industry and in the international logistics industry in Metro Detroit. She began to experience a profound spiritual awakening in 2005. She soon started to write short articles and posts on social media about spiritual and metaphysical subjects, which led her to write articles that have been published in magazines that are sold at Barnes & Noble bookstores and at bookstores in the UK such as Sedona Journal of Emergence, The Magical Times, and Watkins Body, Mind, and Spirit. And she began to write books about ascension to higher consciousness, parallel universes, the Mandela Effect, and other spiritual topics. Her books became bestsellers on Amazon in their categories when they were first published. She is a certified hypnotist and a certified hypnotherapist, a certified Reiki master, and she is a certified angel Reiki. The violet flame, a healing modality that is a combination of energy healing and visualization, violet Reiki, flame Reiki, and past life regression. She has been a guest on many radio shows, including shows on CBS Radio and iHeartRadio. She is the author of the book Traveling to Parallel Universes, which is a first-hand account of her experiences with the Mandela Effect. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the stage, Trish LeSage.
Hi, everybody. I'm sorry I can't be there. I'm here in Michigan, about 7 hours away, but I'm really glad to see all of you, and really glad to be here. Today I'm going to speak about the Mandela Effect in everyday life and achieving higher consciousness. And I wanted to start out at a basic level because I don't know what everybody's experience is, and later on, I'm assuming these videos will be up on the IMEC website, and so anybody could view them, and I don't know what everybody's experiences will be, the people that view the videos. So I'd like to start at a basic level, and that is speaking about a little bit about energy and energy vibration. And Albert Einstein said that everything is energy. There's nothing in existence that isn't simply energy. And so it means that our physical bodies are even energy. They're comprised of energy. And everything that we see, hear, taste, smell, and touch is energy. And even our thoughts, our words, and our feelings are energy. And I think that a good example of this is Dr. Masaru Emoto. I hope I'm saying his name correctly. He and his team experienced, water. They had experiments that they did with water. And what they did was they took water from lakes and rivers away from cities and polluted areas. And when they looked at the molecular structure of this water away from the cities, they noticed that it formed beautiful patterns like snowflakes. And then they played classical music to the water and sent positive messages to the water and had a Buddhist monk bless the water. And they found that the molecular structure again formed beautiful patterns like that of a snowflake. Now, on the contrary, when they played heavy metal music and music with negative messages in the presence of water, they noticed that the molecular structure under a microscope did not form beautiful ornate patterns like a snowflake. Instead, the patterns were more distorted. And so this goes to show that our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions affect the world that we live in for better or worse. And it goes to show also, Cynthia Sue Larson wrote her book, Reality Shifts When Consciousness Changes the World. And, that's what she states also in her book, that our consciousness, our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions can affect the world. And Mr. Emoto, he shared his book, his book, The Hidden Messages in Water, he published it, and it became a bestseller out there, New York Times bestseller. So it's very interesting, that people have been experimenting with water and other things to show and to prove that our emotions, our feelings, our thoughts can affect the world that we live in. And my theory, I've been experiencing Mandela Effects for quite a while now, and it's kind of hard to pinpoint exactly when I started to experience Mandela Effects and the parallel universes phenomenon, because I wasn't aware of it at first. And it took a while for me to realize that something was going on, like a lot of buildings that weren't there before are all of a sudden there, and they looked old and weathered. And you're thinking, well, why is this building there? It's never been there before. And just all sorts of unusual occurrences. It took me a while to put two and two together to figure out, there's something going on here. And I came to the conclusion, after experiencing so many of these Mandela effects and the parallel universes phenomenon, that everything seems to exist at its own energy vibration. But it seems to me that everything exists here on the earth within its own range, within a certain range. Otherwise, I theorized that it wouldn't be here on the earth in the first place. For example, if I were to go try to pick up a book off from my bookshelf, if that book and myself aren't within a certain energy vibration, my hand would probably go right through it. So, related to that, I've realized from my own experiences that these parallel universes also seem to exist at their own unique energy vibration and within a certain energy vibration range. And I've been crossing over into these parallel universes for at least 13 years now. At least that's when I started documenting my experiences. And some of the energy of these universes seems positive and wonderful and great, but some of them don't feel so wonderful. Some of the energy is, chaotic. Some of it is also dissonant feeling. Some of it, I hate to say it, but I would even go as far as saying that some of the energy in these parallel universes even seems demonic in nature. But then there are others that are the complete opposite. I give these parallel universes names or nicknames to try to keep one straight from the other. And there's one, for example, that I call the love universe, because there's a lot of love energy pervading throughout that universe. And even if I'm having a bad day or whatever, you can feel the overtone of love just flowing through, the love energy just flowing through there. And another one I call God's country, because the energy there feels lighter, of a higher energy vibration. It feels like there's expansiveness there. And as an example of ones that don't feel so positive, I call one the accident-prone zone. And the reason why I call it that is because it seems like everything goes wrong there. There's one mishap after another that tends to happen, not only to me, but to other people. And for example, I could be sitting up to the dinner table and I could spill my water. I could drop my food onto the floor or on the table and get up to get a paper towel to wipe it up, and stub my toe or slip or whatever. And I noticed one day, I live in a condominium, and while I was in that particular accident-prone zone universe, I watched in horror out my window as a lady pulled into the parking lot and backed up and plowed right into my vehicle. And my mom and my sister were experiencing their home appliances breaking down, and so was I. So that's one example of some of these not so friendly, I guess you could say, universes. And there was another one that I was in. I noticed in that particular universe, it was really, really strange because the people seemed to have blank stares on their faces. It almost reminded me of, physical bodies, and there was no soul inside. And I never shared this experience with anybody at all, and not in my books, not in articles, on radio shows, nothing. And a gentleman contacted me through my website or through a Facebook group that I had at that time. And he asked me, he said, I was just in a universe in which the people had blank stares on their faces. And it seemed as though there was no soul inside, and I couldn't interact with them really. And he said, what in the world is going on? And I said, well, I had just been in such a place. So I knew from the experience that I have of this gentleman contacting me that I wasn't going crazy. I wasn't imagining things, that, indeed there is a place, such a place in which this phenomenon occurred. And he gave me validation that, this was a true place or universe that I had actually been to. There are other universes that I have experienced in which there's a dark overtone, like the energy is dark, and it seems like this dark energy pervades the place. It doesn't feel absolutely horrible or unbearable, but there's dark energy pervading through there. There's another universe that I call the false matrix. It's a universe because the energy there it doesn't feel natural. It doesn't feel genuine. It feels like it's fake or artificial. It's very, very strange and odd. I was there in that particular universe for 2 or 3 months before I exited. There's another one another universe in which it's hard to breathe. The energy is so dense and so thick that it's hard to breathe. And even my cat has a hard time breathing there in that universe. Actually, I experienced being there 2 or 3 nights ago, and my cat was he was laying on the floor next to me, and I thought, why am I having a hard time breathing? And I looked at him, and he was having a hard time breathing. I could actually hear his breathing, heavy breathing, and saw his body, breathing heavily. And the windows were open and everything. So it wasn't a matter of, something being inside that was causing us trouble with breathing. And there was nothing going on with the weather. There was no rain, nothing unusual happening. Another example, and I've never shared this with anybody in any of my books, articles, nothing. I've only shared this with my mom, my sister, and my aunt. There is a universe in which I ended up in when I went outside behind my home in a woods. I have a woods behind my home in a little river. I go out there every day to feed the ducks and the other wildlife, especially in the winter when it gets cold, because I live in Michigan and everything's frozen and under snow, and there's really nothing to eat, no vegetation, no insects, nothing. And so I go out and help the critters, outside. Well, one day I went out there and I put their food in this large bag, and I sit it down on this large flattened rock. And I walked over to where the ducks were, and I looked back to where I'd left my bag of food. And this truly happened. I saw this camera sitting on a tripod, and it looked old-fashioned. It looked like it was something from the 1800s. And I thought, what in the world is going on? Why is there this camera sitting there? Is someone in the woods with some old-time camera taking pictures? But then it vanished a couple seconds after that. And then across the river from where I was standing, I saw 2 Civil War soldiers dressed in Confederate uniforms. They were there for a few seconds and they vanished. And I thought, what is going on? Is someone out here doing a Civil War reenactment? What's going on? But they vanished a few seconds later. When I went to the woods on a couple more occasions after that, like a few days later, I again saw Civil War soldiers dressed in Confederate uniforms, and they came into appearance, and then they vanished. And I thought, what is going on? And then I thought, I hope I don't interact with these people. I'm in Michigan. Michigan was a Union state during the Civil War. They're wearing Confederate uniforms. What if they shoot me? I know it sounds silly and crazy, but all this was going through my mind, like, what is going on? I dreamt while sleeping shortly after that I actually was seeing into a timeline that was running parallel, or a universe that was running parallel to our universe. I was not seeing into our past and our timeline. I was seeing into a universe that was running parallel to our universe. And I was actually told in the dream that they were actually during our modern day, but that particular timeline was set in a scene of the 1800s and the Civil War. It wasn't actually, back where our time would have been during the 1800s. So these are just a few examples of some of the strange or unusual or negative or even dark or even kind of life-threatening situations that I have experienced over the years, for the past 13 years or so, of the parallel universes phenomenon. And, sometimes these universes can be uncomfortable to the point that I think, I can't stay here, like the one, for example, in which it was getting kind of hard for me to breathe because the energy was feeling so dense there and so thick because it was at such a low energy vibration. I have come up with some ways or some techniques that I wanted to share with you in the audience of trying to, if you ever find yourself when you're experiencing these Mandela effects or even parallel universes, trying to get out of unusual or uncomfortable or even dangerous situations. For example, I've found that being centered in love is a good way to feel yourself full of love, and focusing on family and my loved ones has really helped me a lot. And since I live alone now, it's not always convenient to jump in the car to go across town to where my mother and sister live, especially in the middle of the night, if I find myself experiencing the Mandela Effect or a parallel universe. So it's kind of interesting. I have like 3 altars in my home. There's one in my bedroom where I sleep. There's one in the living room. There's one in the spare bedroom. And they came into existence on their own. I never intentionally planned to put altars throughout my home. And they have like pictures of family members, mementos from trips, and memorabilia and gifts that people have given to me. And a gentleman in the neighborhood gave me a wooden duck that his father carved before he passed away, and he gave me that. And it reminds me of my feeding the mallard ducks behind my home. And it's helpful when you find yourself, or when I have found myself in a negative parallel universe, or even if I'm having a bad day, because I look at those altars and they lift my spirits, they tend to fill me full of love. Again, being centered in love. And it seems like when I'm more centered in love, it helps me to shift out of those negative parallel universes and even lift my spirits and everything. And I also found that helping others, for example, as I mentioned, I go out behind my house every day and help the animals. So being of service and helping others, helping the animals has been very helpful. And actually, it's very interesting because yesterday when I went out there to feed them, it seemed like I was in either a negative or kind of not so negative, but not really dark, but not the greatest state of being, or maybe I was in a more negative place or a negative universe. But I went out there to feed the ducks, and as soon as I walked out there, the energy seemed to shift towards that of I could actually feel love and warmth and positive energy. And I noticed that, being of help and service to them and spending time out in nature has been a wonderful way when I've found myself, in these negative universes where it's hard to breathe, or these other ones that I've mentioned, shifting my focus and focusing on love and getting to a better place, and also lifting my spirits and feeling better myself overall. And another way that I found has been helpful is staying positive minded. And what has been really helpful in regard to that is I tend to not watch the news. I mean, it's kind of sad to say sometimes it's, hard because you want to be aware of what's going on in the world, but a lot of times our local news here is about who's killing who, who's raping who, or whatever. And so I tend to shy away from not watching the news, not watching any negative movies with people killing and raping and doing all of, harming one another, nor TV shows. And I found that when I watch such negative media and negative programming, I can literally feel the negative energy emanating off from that negative media and those negative programs. And it starts to drain me, and I start to shift. I can literally feel myself shift to a negative place or a negative universe, one of the darker ones that I mentioned to all of you. So I think for a recommendation to others to try to avoid ending up in a negative place, turning off the negative media and try to focus on the positive media that's out there. And another thing that has helped me, another technique, is either when I wake up in the morning or during the day at some point, I think of the 3 things from the previous day or also from the current day that I have to be thankful and grateful for. It could be anything, something good or positive that happened yesterday or the current day, or it could be just simply something I have to be thankful for and grateful for. And it shifts my focus and my mind to a state of gratitude and thankfulness. And I can actually feel the emotions, the positivity from reliving or thinking of those experiences, and the love, starts to flood into the heart area, and the warmth, and it shifts the mind, and it starts the day off on the right foot, and it also helps during the day if I'm having an unpleasant day or having a bad day, and tends to keep me away from these more negative and uncomfortable universes that I mentioned to all of you. And another way I found to be helpful in shifting away from these negative universes is through energy healing. And as Scott mentioned, I'm an energy healer, so I tend to get a little bit experimental sometimes with the things that I do. I don't just stick with the modalities or methods that I'm certified in. I've done quite a bit, but one of my favorites is the violet flame. And for those of you who aren't familiar, the violet flame is a combination of energy healing and visualization. And it's really unique because it heals from the root cause all the way through wherever else the issue has occurred and is occurring. And it heals across all time, space, dimensions, parallel realities, the past, the present, the future. It heals on the cellular level, the physical level, the mental and emotional levels, and the energetic levels. And it transmutes, what it does is it transmutes negative energy to positive energy. So for example, if I notice that I've had a really stressful day and it's draining me and I can actually feel the stress, and if it starts to pull me into those negative places and universes, I often use the violet flame, and it starts to heal me. I can feel the negative energy coming up to the surface, and I could feel it being transmuted into positive energy, and it shifts me out of those darker or more negative universes and places that I am. And another thing that I've tried too is because everything is energy, even colors are energy. And if we look at a prism, the colors range, from red to orange to yellow, green, blue, and purple. And purple tends to, I've found through using visualization of colors to heal with, that purple tends to vibrate at a higher energy vibration than the other colors. And I've used green and I've used blue because green is often associated with energy healing as well. And the colors have actually worked to help to heal me and shift me away from, negative energy or stress or whatever and get to a better place. And I've even gone as far as visualizing in my mind purple colored flowers. And what's interesting is this technique has also been very beneficial and helpful, and I have actually healed from it. And what's very interesting about this is when I visualize, for some reason, purple flowers in my mind to heal myself and heal situations, I often visualize. My grandfather was a farmer, and he had this, one of his fields was 40 acres. It was a hay field. And I often visualize these purple flowers out in his hay field. And what is interesting, not only does this technique heal me and help me and shift me to a more positive place and state of being, and can help to get me out of a negative place or a negative parallel universe, is that after I visualize these purple flowers, very soon after that, when I'm out and about, I see purple flowers everywhere. Wild purple flowers, I see them growing along the road. I see purple flowers growing in people's yards. I see purple flowers out in the yards or the lawns of businesses, and I see purple flowers on TV. So it's another way to show that, when our consciousness, even if we're putting, visualization techniques, we're using visualization techniques with our mind, and we're putting, flowers out there or whatever, they can also manifest in the physical world. So our consciousness is very powerful and very strong and can manifest in the physical world. And another way that I've used, a technique that I've used to help to shift my energy and get out of a negative place and to lift my spirits and, to heal and to try to get out of or avoid going to these parallel universes that aren't so pleasant, is simply using love energy. And I know Cynthia Sue Larson mentioned it in her book about Mandela Effects as well, that she often uses love energy. An example of this is a neat little story. This happened to me. My fiance and I went out to dinner one evening, and we decided to take a walk off after dinner that we ate at a restaurant. And we were near this park. We were about to enter the park, and there was this cat that wasn't really close to us, but he wasn't far away. He was close enough that we could hear him. He was a feral cat, probably, because he was hissing and hissing and hissing at us, even though we weren't trying to approach him nor anything. And I told my fiance, let's send him some love energy. And so we both focused our intent, and we sent this cat love energy. And immediately after that, he stopped hissing. He started purring. He laid down and closed his eyes and started dozing off in the bushes. And so it goes to show that, love energy, when we focus our intent on love, it can be very powerful. Not only can it heal ourselves and fill our own hearts and our bodies, with love, it can heal others, even if we're sending and projecting it out to others, even animals. Being an energy healer, I have used Reiki energy. And for those of you who aren't familiar, Reiki channels, you channel universal life force energy and use it with loving intent. So it feels very positive. The energy, you can feel love energy in combination with the universal life force energy that's full of positive energy. And when I was taking the course in Reiki, I had to practice. I was supposed to do practice exercises on people and animals and also on plants. So one of my practice exercises I noticed outside of my home, because we haven't been getting as much rain as we usually do in Michigan, and usually Michigan's pretty damp and wet and humid, but last summer and this summer, we've gone through droughts, actually. So we haven't had the rain, and a lot of the pine trees and some of the other trees, their needles have been like drying up and looking brown instead of vibrant and green. And I thought, well, I'm going to use this Reiki energy on the trees for this exercise, for this Reiki course that I'm taking. And I focused my intent and sent the universal life force Reiki energy to the trees and love energy. And those trees, soon after that, those pine trees, their needles turned green. The brown needles, were no longer there. And so, again, this energy, it's real, it's powerful, it heals ourselves, it can heal others, and it can also help us to shift from a negative state of being and also from a negative place or a negative, universe that we may find ourselves in. And it can also be proactive in the sense that, if we're feeling stressed someday or had a bad day and we heal ourselves, it can help to keep us out of a negative place or an unpleasant universe as well. And also, I've found another way that is very helpful and beneficial in trying to avoid going to a negative parallel universe or getting out of one if we find ourselves there, is also asking for help. And I've asked for divine help, and it has worked. It has helped me. And actually, you can call on your spirit guides, your guardian angels, whatever you believe in, Jesus, God, or whatever you believe in. And I've received help in that form, help me, please get me out of a negative universe, or, help me to avoid going there in the first place. And I have received help. I have felt the energy. I have felt as though I have been helped. And, it hasn't taken going to a church nor getting down on my hands and knees or putting my hands in a prayer position or anything like that. I've found you can do it anywhere, anytime, 24/7. You can do it out loud inside of your mind. Either way is fine, and it works, 24/7. And actually, I have a slide. I'm sorry, I forgot. I'm kind of getting really into this. I forgot to mention I have a slide in case anybody wanted to see the points that I was hitting upon and talking about here, being centered in love with the family members and altars and staying positive minded, turning off the negative media and all of that I mentioned in the energy healing, and asking for divine help when we need it. And now I'm actually ready to go to the next slide. I'm really sorry. I apologize that I was asleep at the wheel here. But now I wanted to shift my focus on away from, what to do to try to avoid it and be proactive on ending up in a negative parallel or uncomfortable or unsafe parallel universe and trying to escape one if you end up there. And now I want to shift the focus on achieving higher consciousness overall and ascension to higher consciousness. And for those of you who aren't familiar, it has been said that humanity is now living during a monumental time in which we are shifting to a higher state of consciousness overall, and we are going through a process known as Ascension. And what Ascension is basically we are transcending the third dimension Earth's state of mind, which entails, as we're all familiar with the negativity that the third dimension Earth entails, a lot of times the materialism, the greed, people not treating each other so well and, misusing the resources and, not taking care of the planet and all of that entails the third dimension Earth. And Ascension is about transcending all of that and going to a higher state of being. And also, along with that, we end up existing at a higher energy vibration, and our quotient of light increases. And we tend to walk away from walk away from darkness, rather, and towards the light. And what I've found back in about May of 2009, I had been on this spiritual and metaphysical path, and I had been experiencing Mandela Effects and the parallel universes phenomenon for quite a while, and I was starting to get into energy healing. And at that time, I eventually ended up in a perpetual state of peace, bliss, love, and joy. And, it just felt wonderful and great. And I was feeling love towards everybody and everything. And it was started to become kind of difficult to, continue in that state because, as you know, we have to live our lives in the third dimension Earth, and not everybody is there at that point in the process. And so it was difficult, but it takes a lot of, practice and trying to stay there on a daily basis, especially with, the stress that we have in life and, people, that tend to come in and out of our lives. But I really found that going to a higher state of consciousness overall on the path of ascension to higher consciousness, one factor or one way to help the process is to really genuinely want to be on a path of ascension and go to a higher state of consciousness overall. And we may even go as far as asking for it. Again, whatever you believe in, whether it's your spirit guides, guardian angels, Jesus, God, whatever you believe in, asking for help, saying, I would like to be on a path of ascension to higher consciousness, help me, guide me, to get there. Also being open-minded along the path and along the journey and seeking knowledge and connecting with others on the path, I have found has been very helpful. Wanting to learn and expand our mind and our consciousness. And related to that is not being limited by our own beliefs and our own belief systems, because if we don't, I don't mean to be gullible or naive. We have to, we as humans operate on our beliefs quite often, but I'm just saying, not limiting ourselves to only stay with our own beliefs and our belief systems, because then I find that, we stagnate and we don't open our minds to anything else. And Ascension is really all about, opening the mind. It's about going to a higher level of consciousness. And so, trying to not be limited by our own beliefs and our own belief system is very beneficial with Ascension. And also, I think reading is very important and expanding our knowledge in that way. I remember back when I first started to awaken and go through a profound spiritual awakening, I went out there on Amazon and I bought so many books. I couldn't get enough. I just kept reading about metaphysics and spirituality and, anything and everything that I could get my hands on. It was just really eye-opening and expanded my knowledge. And I would encourage others to do the same because, it opens up your consciousness and your knowledge, and you really, really learn, and it really helps you on the path of ascension. And also connecting with others on the path of ascension and others that are on a metaphysical or spiritual path is really a helpful way as well to assist us on the path of ascension to higher consciousness. For example, attending a conference like this, like all of you are doing, which says, that you're wanting to expand your knowledge and your consciousness, connecting with people on social media. There are lots of Facebook groups out there and other, Twitter even has groups or communities now. Meetup.com, the meetup groups on meetup.com, some are focused on spiritual and metaphysical topics. Some of those groups meet in person. Some of them meet online. And for example, I told a group in Nashville, a meetup group that meets now via Zoom, about the Mandela Effect conference. About a week ago, I told them, hey, there's this conference, there in Nashville, and since your group is in Nashville, maybe go check it out. So hopefully some of you guys from that group in Nashville, the meetup group, are there or at the conference. But I found that, meetup groups, conferences, and other ways of connecting with other people on the spiritual path or on a metaphysical path, other people that have experienced Mandela effects like all of us have, is a beneficial, good way of learning more, expanding our knowledge, expanding our consciousness, helping us on the path of ascension to higher consciousness. Another way that I found to be very helpful along this path to higher consciousness and ascension is monitoring our thoughts and our words and actions. And I admit I was better at this before than what I am now, but it takes, some effort, slowing down and being conscious and mindful of what we're thinking, saying, and doing, and trying to keep everything positive and trying to block and filter out the negativity and trying to stop the negativity of whatever we think, say, and do before it even comes into fruition, stopping it in its tracks, and also changing the negative thoughts to positive thoughts immediately, before we finish them. And I found that that's very helpful on this path of ascension because it shifts our mindset to a positive mindset, so that we don't end up, down in the negativity, and it shifts us to a whole new level so that we can operate on a more positive level and mindset. And I also found that intentionally being kind is very important on the path of ascension. I actually think it's one of the most important aspects of ascension, along with love and everything else, which means no arguing intentionally. I mean, sometimes we do have to state our opinions, but what I mean is no arguing or picking fights intentionally with people, and no contradictory behavior. What I mean by that is, if I were to go outside one day and say, oh, it's such a wonderful, beautiful day. The sun is shining. The sky is blue. It's such a beautiful, wonderful day. And somebody says, yeah, but they say it's going to rain later on. That's what I mean by contradictory behavior. The conversation has shifted from something positive to the negative when there was really no need to state, well, yeah, it's going to rain though later on. So I found that being not being contradictory in behavior is very beneficial on the path of ascension, because again, it keeps things positive, keeps our mindset positive, and it not only helps ourselves, but it helps other people. It puts avoids putting the negativity out there in the world. And, you know, again, not intentionally harming others, of course, is a good way to, being very mindful of not intentionally harming others is a good way to help us on the path of ascension and staying positive. And of course, empathy, we all know that empathy is putting ourselves, in other people's shoes or positions, which leads to compassion, which is very, important, I think, on the path of ascension to higher consciousness, also because, when we do this, I've noticed that it even, tends to link to humility as well, when we can get to a point of placing ourselves in someone else's situation and think about it from their perspective. And I think that it's really important on the path of ascension, to be more mindful of that as well. And then again, some of this is a little repetitious, and I apologize for that, but staying positive minded, as I mentioned before, turning off the negative media on a daily basis to try to avoid going to, a negative universe or ending up in a negative place. Doing this can help us to stay overall in general in a more positive mindset and state of being to help us on the path of ascension to higher consciousness as well. And it's interesting because if you practice doing this, turning off the negative media, you may find that you don't crave it anymore, or you don't want anything to do with it. You don't want to watch it. You crave the positive programming, which your mind is shifting to the positive. And again, being grateful and thankful, as I mentioned before, surrounding ourselves with that which brings us joy. If we're happy, and we tend to treat each other's better and spread joy to others, and they in turn can treat others better and spread joy. Laughter helps us on the path of ascension, staying in a more positive frame of mind. And again, as I mentioned before, spending time in nature, you can feel love, even if it means looking out the window of your home for a few minutes each day and focusing on the animals, feeling the love in your heart, and being service to others instead of service to self-oriented. And what I mean by that is unconditionally helping others with a hidden agenda and not being self-centered. And that's a good way of staying more positive and on the path of ascension to higher consciousness. And if you may find that once you get on that path, that you might eventually start to feel love automatically towards everyone and everything, and feel a connection with everyone and everything based on love. And you can eventually start to see yourself and others. And it's a wonderful state to be in, and it's worth it. And it's the best, worth wanting to be the best that we can be.
Trish, I do apologize. I am so sorry.
It's okay. I just finished. I was trying to hurry up there.
Perfect. Yeah, because we're down to like 10 minutes left for Q&A. I just wanted to let you know in case you had a little bit more to go.
Oh, no, that's okay. I was going to finish up. I was just going to say, I think it's worth it to be on the path of ascension, and to really want to be on the path of ascension to higher consciousness, and to generally want it, and you work for it, and to monitor our thoughts and everything, and try to live from a place of love and peace. And it's worth it to be our divine selves, and to exist at a higher energy vibration, and bring in the light, and be at a higher quotient of light overall.
Ladies and gentlemen, Trish LeSage. Got somebody coming up right now.
Okay, good.
Go ahead, sir.
First off, nice to meet you. Great presentation. The ascension feelings are the feelings we feel when we are ascending upwards in a higher vibration. Is there any? Can you give kind of any remedies, the best ways to actually deal with ascension? Because I know for myself, for a lot of people, we might not know what it is, but I know the headaches get you that slump, this tiredness out of nowhere, just that fatigue, all you want to do is sleep. Is there a positive way to actually make it much easier to cope with? I mean, that's the best way to ask that.
Yeah, I've noticed sometimes that I feel that way as well, because sometimes it almost feels as though you have a cold or a flu or something that you're getting rid of, because what's happening, I believe, is that old energies are coming up to the surface and they're being eliminated. And so it's almost similar to when we're getting over having a cold. Our body is trying to eliminate, the negative energy, so that we can be at a higher level. And, some people may experience, even cold or flu-like symptoms like I've experienced when I'm healing, a sore throat sometimes, or a tender throat, and being tired, being feverish, all of these things. And the only way that I've known to deal with it is, and I know it's going to sound pretty, I don't know, simple or basic, but is to get as much rest as possible, to drink water, to stay hydrated, just try to be at a state of peace. It's really hard. It can be hard, because if you're healing through Ascension, it's not like if you have a cold and you can take like an over-the-counter medication or go to the doctor and get, some kind of medication or whatever to overcome it. Your body is going to purge, and it's going to be cleansed. And so the healing is taking place. And so sometimes that can be tiresome. So the only way that I've known of to get through it, and I've noticed this sometimes happening even when I use the healing modalities, it's not, so bad that, I have to stay in bed all day. But you just have to be gentle with yourself and take it easy and get plenty of rest and drink a lot of water, and, probably, like, I've even had to avoid exercise, like, working out, doing exercise and all that, because, just having to just let yourself heal, pretty much. That's the only way, really, that I've known to get around it. Because if you try to heal yourself with healing modalities, while you're already healing, it might be even more overwhelming. You might even go through even more healing symptoms.
Thank you, because like you just said, it does make me tired, and when I'm a healer, I'm a healer and a magician, so I push the limits, and that's I just it helps me to know that I just need to rest. I think that's for everything, and we don't have time to rest, so it's good to know that rest, is important. So.
I mean, sometimes when I've gone through Ascension, like on the weekend or something, I've had to even lay down a while during the middle of the day. I've found myself having to do that even, just getting rest when your body needs it. You're welcome.
All right. Thank you so very much, Trish. Ladies and gentlemen, Trish LeSage.